Hey guys, so this is N Knox, the N of DNN, and I'm so excited to welcome you to my humble abode. As you can see, I got my friends the flowers here to join us, and you guys will be with me today, so that's always exciting. So just to get into it almost immediately, okay, my phone just fell. We're back. Just to get to it immediately, Divine and I have been doing this sort of like video series, and we've called it the human experience, because just to give us all a starting point, if you haven't seen our previous video before, please do check it out. It's absolutely amazing. We touch on basically what was the thought process when it came to coming to this point where we're making these videos for this series called the human experience, and also what's the purpose of it all and where are we coming from when we're speaking about these things. So just to enforce that whatever is said with regards to this series, whether it's Divine talking, I'm talking, or we're both talking, it's coming from a place of us first identifying as people. Before I identify as, a black woman or, whatever, it first comes from a place of saying I'm first a human being. However, being on this earth and having this bodysuit where I look like a woman and I look specifically like a black woman has come with certain experiences. Some experiences which honestly I can say I'm so proud of, and other experiences where I can say honestly this is disgraceful that human beings could treat each other in this way for whatever reason, whatever their basis is. And I come from a certain background, which I'd like to first communicate that the background that I'm coming from is that I come from born and raised in a black household, more specifically in a single parent black household. I've been raised by my mom, who I absolutely adore, and I wouldn't be who I am without her, invaluable or valuable input into my life. And obviously with that comes a community which I've been exposed to through most education, whether it's starting from primary up to university, and obviously the friends that I've collected along the way who are from different backgrounds, different walks of life, different skin colors, and different beliefs and ideas that have also informed and shaped the way in which I look at the world. And also, of course, which is the biggest influencer of my psyche and the biggest influencer of how I treat people and how I act is my faith, my belief in Christ. And so whatever I say comes from those perspectives. It is a personal experience, so I don't expect you to agree. I don't expect you to shut it down, whatever. This is an environment or a platform that Divine and I are hoping to create where we can talk about issues and experiences that we've had that might not be comfortable for someone who's on the other side, who might look like the person that we might be referring to, vice versa. So it is to inform, it is to share, because some of us don't have the opportunity or the privilege to have these conversations with our families and friends, because all our families and friends look like us. Whether you're a black person, everybody who looks like you, and if you're a white person, everybody, whatever other race in which you identify looks like you. So you don't have an input that's coming from another person's background or perspective, and I feel like it's important that we have these conversations. So we've been talking about the human experience, and we are diving into two specific discussions, which deals with sort of like the gender-based violence or issues surrounding gender, specifically more so being a woman, and also a discussion that's going around talking more about, black lives. And as a black person, what does it mean to be black, and what are the experiences that we've had as black people? So please do grab a cup of coffee, grab something to drink, grab a snack, grab your notebook, because these are experiences that are coming from me that I want to share with you, and obviously the psyche and the way in which I perceive them, and maybe the new way in which I perceive them now, having grown, and it's been a time since some of these experiences have occurred. So welcome to DNN, and we do hope you guys enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, give it a thumbs up, and also click that notification button so that you get all our latest contents right at the tips of your fingers. And yeah, you're most welcome. Intro. Ding, 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 ding. Okay guys, cool. So I want to dive into an experience that I had a very long time ago. This is now 6 years ago, but it's an experience which really marked such a, or had such a great impact on my life, and the way I see things. So I grew up, as I said, in a black household. However, I went to predominantly white schools, or Model C schools, whatever the term is, the correct term is. So however, those schools were mixed, so there was a good number of white female males, black, Indian, colored, whatever it is that people identify. And I'm using these identifications just for the point of understanding. It's not that I agree or accept them or whatever, but for the sake of understanding, especially the context that we are in South Africa, and I suppose even globally, it's important that I make these distinctions. When I was in grade 10, moving into grade 11, my mom got basically a job and an opportunity for her to come to Bloemfontein, originally from Durban, and from there onwards, I was forced to stay, not forced, but it ended up that I was going to stay at a hostel. My school actually didn't provide a hostel, like within, how a high school would have their own hostel. So I had to stay at another school hostel. And the hostel that I stayed at for grade 11 and 12 happened to be an Afrikaans speaking school. So I'm not going to mention the school name because I just want to keep perspective and objective. But when a school ends with school, like SKOOL, it's an Afrikaans school. So I got to stay there. It was a very privileged experience because, first of all, I was the only black female there. I think maybe there was another black female, but she wasn't in the hostel that I was staying at. I think she went to the school itself, but she spoke Afrikaans, and then there was maybe one or two other dark-skinned fellows, whether they identify as colored or black, I'm not sure. And they were fluent in Afrikaans, grew up in sort of that Afrikaans setting. So when I related to them, it was as if I was relating to Afrikaans speaking white people. Not that they didn't have their own individuality in the black context, and obviously I think some of them I didn't have a close enough relationship to actually find out from them, like, which I wish I did now, like how was it for them, looking black and growing up in Afrikaans setting, and did they notice any difference in the way that they were treated? Because when I was there, I did. I'd like to say I'm fortunate enough that I'm very strong-willed. I communicate. I'm not afraid to enter into spaces that are conventionally not designed for certain types of people or females or whatever. But going there, I opened myself up to a very rich and shocking experience, because it was a culture shock, surrounded by Afrikaans 24/7 every day when I'm coming from an English Zulu background, and then also just the way people spoke, thought, did, ate. It was such a rich experience, and it made me who I am today, because I'm able to clearly distinguish what racism is, and I'm very sensitive to it, and it makes me very uncomfortable, but also clearly distinguish people, because there's a time where I had to choose, is this a white person talking to me, like they are imposing their whiteness, or is this a friend? But we'll get to that. So anyway, so I stayed in this hostel. It was lovely. I'm not gonna even pretend like I didn't have a good time. I did. I made some incredible friends during that season. Some lifelong friends, and I had some lifelong rich experiences that I definitely wouldn't have had if I was at home, or sort of in the same environment that I was exposed to. But I want to account to sort of like two specific situations or circumstances that really brought to attention that I was black in that context. As much as everyone was so, or seemingly so, loving and endearing and willing to help at every turn and whatever, there was also some blatant experiences where I really felt black. And one of those experiences was when a very close friend of mine, once again, not going to mention names, this is not to break down anybody, or this is to just say this is an experience that I have, and if that person is watching, hopefully they will remember, and it might be for them I hope that they've come to new realizations and grown as a person. But if they haven't, it doesn't matter. This was my experience, and it sucked at that moment, and I really want to point out that even today, I think that the point of the series is that even today, 21st century, educated people, you've grown up in a mixed environment, there are still people who, especially our age, it's shocking to see and encounter that there are still racist people out there. Like, I can't even believe that, you know, even in the church environment, which is really, really sad, you know, being in the Free State, you know, predominantly sort of an Afrikaans speaking province, Afrikaans Sesotho speaking province, and being confronted by people who I go to church with who still have a racist mentality is really sad. And it's a reality that even the Bible that we love so much and we cherish, the Word of God, sometimes is not enough, you know, for people who are set in their religious ways, you know. But that's, once again, it's life and it's the human experience. This is what we're experiencing here and today. I nearly reached for a tea that's not even there. I was just like, where's my tea? So right, anyway, getting straight to the point. So there was this incredible young lady who I befriended through my stay. Very sweet. I might even say socially awkward, because a lot of the times, like, the people didn't really respond well to her for whatever reason. Not gonna dive into that, but another thing I want to say, bullying is absolutely wrong. Like, I also saw bullying in that context, that white people within themselves bully themselves, and just as much as, you know, if you were to be in a black context, you know, how people bully, it's absolutely, you know. But anyway, I think she was, from what I saw, she was experiencing bullying, but you know, so somehow throughout all this happening, I was able to befriend her and become a good friend somewhat during that stay. We don't really communicate now, but then we were. And we were having just a discussion, like just catching up, sort of like talking about her home, my home, you know, where we're coming from, and stuff like that. And she passed a comment that, like, black people stink. Like, that was the comment, like, black people stink. And I was just like, babes, I don't know if you do not see who's sitting in front of you, or you don't see what's sitting in front of you. What are you saying? Let's talk, you know. So she was like, yeah, black people, but she said it in such a relaxed, sort of passing way, you know. And I, you know, at that moment, I really had a choice to sort of like, you know what, brush it off, get mad, you know, let it be. Let's not cause a riot here. The odds are against me. It's 1 to, you know, 100. I don't know what I'm gonna do here. But, or, you know, let's actually have a discussion and create an environment where she can actually expand on what she's talking about. And also for me to actually educate and have compassion, because that's my heart. It will always be my heart towards people. I don't care what you've done in my background. Yes, I might be mad initially, but I will always take a step back and try to understand and try to listen and try to see. You know what I mean? So I said to her, but what do you mean? How can you say that when I am a black person? And she's like, no, you don't stink.
Oh my god. Oh my god.
I mean, I was like, girl, you are, in my head, I'm like, you are digging deep. Like, you digging yourself a deep. Let's see how far it can go. You know. And she's like, no, not you, but like black people, like every time I pass a black person, like they always have like this smile and you know, whatever. And to cut the long story short, it came to a conversation where it's like, how can you sort of have, even, I don't even want to talk about whether they smelt or not or whatever, have such a limited experience with whatever it is that you're saying. Maybe one person who happened to be black, you didn't have a pleasant smell according to you, and then decide, you know what, this is what all black people are. This is the homogeneous group. This is how they all smell. And then sit in front of a girl who's your age, who I might say is in pristine condition, and still come to that conclusion despite it all. And it sucked. At that moment, I really felt like how does anybody make any concrete decision about anything or anyone based on their skin color? Which really comes to the state that we're still experiencing in our country, or the state that our country is still in, that you will not even know a person and you'll be able to say, based on your skin color, you are this, you are this, you are a criminal, you are an abuser, you are corrupt, you are unintelligent, you are lazy, you are afraid of swimming, you are all these things. And I was literally a living paradox according to them. This is not to say that, oh, I was this righteous black person coming into their space who was the best or the cream of the crop. Not at all. But however, every day I was living proof that the stereotypes that they had attached to black bodies don't exist. And if they do, they shouldn't exist on a human level, on an individual. Oh, Mang Knox can't swim. Not, oh, that black girl or black people can't swim or whatever, because I could. In fact, I'm gonna take this moment to say my family has a history of swimming. My mother was a professional lifeguard, the first black woman professional lifeguard in Africa. My grandfather was also a professional lifeguard, so I grew around swimming and it was just a norm for me. And to come in an environment where I went to actually try and swim there because they had like a pool, and how everybody was like, no, they were like, whoa, what are you doing? That's the deep end. I think you should make your way over. I don't know why I'm making that accent, but it works. I think you should make your way over to the shallow end, just to be safe. And it's like, honey, I can swim, honey. And you know what? I just ran in that pool and I did the best dive. But anyway, the point is that there's this sort of like attachment that people have to blackness. It's like, if you're black, these are the stereotypes and the cards that you are dealt with, and this is the type of person that you are. And credited that probably this is done for any race. White people, these are the things that white people are. These are the things that Indian people are, or whatever. But specifically now we're talking about the black experience, so I'm not even going to dive into that. And if you want to have the kind of conversation where you let us know about the experiences that you've been having attached to your culture or your color, please do comment down below so that we can all learn and educate ourselves, because truly ignorance is bliss out there. But once you know, and once you know better, we need to do better. So anyway, so we had this conversation with her back and forth, like, girl, I don't think that's a fair thing to say. And I mean, she got so defensive in that moment. It was very difficult to get through to her. It was just like, no, but I don't mean all black people, I just mean like the ones that I've encountered. And I'm like, but you've encountered me, so what's your problem? You can't just attach that to people, because it wouldn't be fair that if I smelt a white person, this is what me, irritating this to her, if I smelt a white person and they stunk and I'm like, Chad, yes, this white people stink. I think, folks, this is not, it's not really the correct way to live, because what you're doing is you're limiting yourself. And this is what white people do a lot of the times, or people who are racist. Let me not say necessarily white people, but this is what people who are racist do, is that they completely do not interact and they isolate themselves from incredible experiences with people from all walks of life, just based on attachments that they've been perpetuated by their family, their society, their churches, their synagogues, whatever, places of worship, or their friendship circle, or the movies that they watch, which always perpetuate a certain type of people in a good light and a certain type of people in not so great light, specifically black people, as I've said, as thugs, thieves, people who are literally at the bottom of the food chain. And so if you have been socialized so much like that, of course, no matter what comes in your way, whether it's the best person who has ever walked, they will not perceive you as human. They will not perceive you as someone who has their own individuality and autonomy and your own personal traits and your own personal beliefs. You will always be just a black person. And I really want to educate people across the board, is that let's stop doing that. Let's really challenge ourselves. I challenge myself all the time when I get frustrated and I want to use this platform. I do, where I'll encounter a white person and it'll be just a revolting experience, and you're just like, yes, this man, white people, and because you're so mad at that point that you're experiencing this based on your skin color, you already attach racism to this person and their skin color. So all white people become racist, and I challenge myself all the time about that, because I don't want it to get to that place. However, it does, because the frequency and the intensity of the racism that one gets or experiences based on their skin color, based on me being a black person, by white people, especially in the area that I'm in, it almost seems as if all of them are the same. It almost seems as all white people are the same, or all whatever, you know what I mean? And I challenge myself all the time about that, because that is a terrible place to be, because you will miss people who are great individuals, who actually are very aware of themselves, where they come from, and their thought processes. You miss those gems because you're so fixated that if this person looks like this, it means that they're like this. You know, so that was one of the experiences I had. I was able to somewhat educate her, but I think at the time I wasn't as, you know, if I can say, concrete in my beliefs and understanding of skin color, racism, and as much as I do now. So I didn't really speak in the way I think I would have probably attended to it differently now than then. However, it was an experience that stayed with me for such a long time, because throughout my stay there I had similar experiences, but none of them were as prominent as that. None of them was just like, I mean, I felt every day that I was a black girl, but it wasn't, it was almost, I could ignore it. But this one was just like, yeah, black people stink. And I really at that point felt so defensive, like, my people, as much as I identify you as my sister despite your skin color, but my people, because my people are faced with this ridiculous stereotypes every single day. It affects everything we do. It affects how people treat us in the education system. It affects how we're treated in workplaces. It affects what jobs we can and cannot get. It affects what opportunities we can and cannot get. It affects what kind of housing. The fact that you're black, you're most likely 10 times most likely to be denied the opportunity to get a home loan so that you can be a property owner than a white person. It doesn't matter how much your accolades are. You know, you can be a PhD holder and still, just based on your skin color, someone who's maybe a white person and a secretary might get a home loan as opposed to you. You know what I mean? It's those things that you based on your skin color, there's so much resistance out there. It's you really can't ignore it. It's really impossible to ignore. I mean, and this comes to my example number 2. I had 3 examples. Another one was going to be more on like relationships and, you know, black interracial relationships, and how that context that I was in at the time, the exposure that I had looking as a young beautiful woman and these white guys being attracted to me, but based on the fact that I was white, I mean that I was black, it was a no-go zone. But I don't want to talk about that, because I feel like that's another video that can in itself, you know, be something rich to talk about, you know, interracial relationships and interracial, you know, whatever. So, but I want to talk more specifically here now, in the place that I am as a grown woman and soon to be medical doctor by the grace of the Lord.
Praise Jesus and hallelujah! Hallelujah! Hallelujah!
Last example. So I'm now in my final year medical school, and I'm not even gonna joke with you when I say I've had so many racial encounters, so many people need to check themselves. Like, you need to check yourself, guys. Yeah. Anyway, so I guess what I'm trying to say is with this is that the experience that I had in totality, or most of the time, I really believe that I'm a young, black, academically intelligent woman. I mean, by the grace of God, I did not get into medicine by just playing around. But in finding myself in that context and being in a system where most of my educators are white, more so male, I'd say the ratio of males to female educators, whether across board your color, is mostly, you know, males, and then within the male population will be mostly white males. In finding myself in that situation, you know, when you prepare, you learn, you study, you put in the time, you put in the effort, and when you walk into an exam room and you're crossing fingers that you do not get a white assessor, because you just like, listen, if I get a white assessor, I know that my average will not be above 70, even though I know that my capabilities are well above a distinction, is the most heartbreaking experience to have still in 2020. It's really heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking that, you know, 2 or 3 of my latest cases that I had, and I knew I had them in the bag, and I got white assessors on all of them. There was a cap to, okay, a black, this is how I felt, that as a black woman or as a black person, this is how far that you can go. It doesn't matter if you valid by your presentation and your understanding and your reasoning, you should be sitting at an 80 or whatever. But because you're black, this is where you should be, or this is only as far as you can go. To have that slap you almost back to back 3 times was heartbreaking for me. I know these cases that I prepared for, and I gave my all, and I knew everything, and there wasn't a question. You know, when you did that, it's like, hey, yeah, I'm just praying, like, let me just pass, yeah. But there are times when it's just like, or most of the times when it's like, wow, I really gave it my all. And to be in a place of peace, to say, you know what, I'm probably gonna get a 60 here anyway. So, you know, it's really sad. And you know that the next person who you were talking to happened to be a white female would say, hey, I feel so unprepared, like I don't know what's gonna happen in there. They get the same assessment because, you know, it's a list, and they rock up maybe 2 weeks later when we get our results. Oh my gosh, I actually got a distinction. It's like, wow. It's really like, wow. There are still gatekeepers for race or for color still here and today. And we live through, I know you can, in your own experiences, I'm sure as a black person, you can account for how many gatekeeping experiences you've had, not even in just schooling, in workplaces, opportunities, salary payments for people who are qualified for the same job, but for some reason somebody's getting paid higher than the other, because for what reason? Skin color. It's really sad. And these are experiences. This is just about a drop in the ocean of a lifetime of experiences that one has had, where there are constant limitations or constant barriers. And people ask us, why are we so aggressive? You know, there's this also stereotype, black people are so aggressive. I mean, who wouldn't be aggressive when every day you have to fight to just be shown, or you have to fight to show that you exist, you have to fight to show that you matter, that your ideas, that your mind, that your work matters on a human level. You know, it can be exhausting, and who wouldn't get frustrated because of that? You know, who wouldn't get frustrated when every day you're just trying to live your best life, and people won't let you do that because to them it's like you are whatever, and the list goes on. It's unacceptable. And I think now I'm at a place where I'm so much at peace with this, that when I deal with racism, I really try to deal on it on a one-on-one. It's like, you as a person, you suck, and I'm gonna tell you that you suck, and it's unacceptable that you treat me that way. I'm not gonna now go on and rant and be like, oh, white people suck, because I do have white friends and friends who are not my skin color or from my background or from my culture. I do, and who are lovely people, and who I've had such deep conversations about race and racism, and they're so susceptible, and they're so understanding, and they also have their concerns about how they've been treated by black people, etc. Like, that's healthy, and we need to be at that place as people to communicate. But I know that a lot of people, black people, are not, because we're scarred, you know. And white people are always just like, no, but we're trying and whatever. But people are scarred out there. You cannot fathom. I mean, I feel like I've even had the best of the worst experiences in terms of like racism. I feel like I've had some, you know, there were shitty experiences, but you know, okay. But when I hear of my fellow brothers and sisters who are you know, black, and I hear the experiences they've had in their workplaces, in their families, in relationships, in, you know, whatever, it's just like, how are you even still standing? How are you not in jail? Because I don't know if I would have done the Christian thing in that moment or whatever, you know what I mean. But to end off this message, for me personally, and I think everybody has to get to a place where they decide and make it clear. Don't be this like half-hearted, oh shoot, oh, I love all people, but then you doing, you know, if you're a racist, stick with it, we can deal with you. You know, if you're someone who's really trying to understand and learn and grow, it needs to show. You know, you can't be a private I'm for all people kind of person. You really need to be vocal, and I think we all need to be vocal. But what I want to end off is with this is that despite it all, I can go on about the experiences, I can go on about the difficulties. Despite it all, as a person, I have to come to a place where I'm like, okay, what is it from here? These are the experiences, I've identified them. This is the person, they're standing in front of me, they've said a racist thing, they've acted in a racist way. From here onwards, what are my choices? There will be situations where you can, you know, really, it's like, I'm not gonna win here. Like, you know, you sense those situations, it's like, you're not worth it, it's not worth it. And there's situations that you can sense that this is actually an opportunity to bring knowledge, to bring awareness and consciousness to someone. And I encourage everybody to take those moments. But when you take them with, especially if you're coming from the sort of belief system that I do, take them from a place of really understanding that sometimes we're not fed the human experiences that we want to be fed. Like, that person will know that, yo, there was that one girl or one guy who actually dealt with me, you know, but in that they handled me well. It wasn't nice to hear, it was uncomfortable, it's not something that you want to hear, but it's something that's necessary, because whether we like it or not, our lives as people in this country and wherever you choose to live impacts each other. We all feed off the same land, we all live off the same land. So if we're going to propel, you can't have one person propelling, everybody needs to propel. And yes, some people won't, and it's gonna take time, and that's something we all need to also get very comfortable with, that we're not going to undo 400 to 600 years of injustice in a matter of 20 to 30 years. It's not gonna happen. It's gonna take time, because there are many levels to racism. There are systemic or systematic racism, there's interpersonal racism, there is, you know, even constitutional racism, which is another, you know, discussion. There's political racism. There's so many facets, and we can't deal with them all, you know, in a matter of, I don't know how many years you think something like this can be undone, but it's so deep, it's generational, it's gonna take time. But if we all do our part in order for us to understand and to have this conversation, and if you decide that your mindset is going to be for the betterment of the human species, then you might find that these experiences can be actually really enriching, and the result thereof. But if you're someone who's working from a place of hate and disgust and disdain, yes, we need ferociousness and we need aggression when we're dealing with certain circumstances and certain issues, because we cannot take oppression sweetly. But if you're dealing from a place of, I'm going to hurt you because you're going to hurt me, it's going to cause so much damage, and I don't condone that, and I will never condone that. But what I do condone is a definite, ruthless, progressive way in dealing with racism, where you can't smile at it, you can't caress it. It's like a weed. When it grows, it really affects all the good stuff. So you need to pluck it out. Like, it needs to be very radical. You need to pluck it out, and how you do that, I know it's difficult. How is dealing with it at that moment, is saying who you are at that moment, is calling it out for what it is, and obviously using your mind when you do that, and using, you know, wisdom. And I believe to pray for wisdom in situations like that. And there is a way. It's no perfect way, there's no manual to it, but there is definitely a more constructive way of doing these things. And there are ways, sometimes it's honestly like, hey, yay. So you use your you know, your common sense and your sense in order to deal with these things, but don't be afraid. Because if you allow it in small things, you will definitely allow it in greater things, and you'll find that one day there's certain things in your life that didn't happen because you didn't fight for them, because you were scared that, hey, this person sees me like this, or they see my color like this. It can be very toxic environments, I understand, where you don't want to expose yourself to an environment where every day you belittled, you undermined, and you 100% do what you need to do for your peace. But we all have a responsibility. White people have a responsibility, black people have a responsibility, and, you know, coloreds and Indians, everybody has a responsibility when it comes to progressing our livelihood, our interpersonal livelihood, when it comes to things like race and the stereotypes and the hurtful stereotypes and attachments that come with certain colors. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I really love this conversation. I can have it anytime. You guys are more than welcome. Please comment down below. Tell us what you think. Tell us your experiences as a black person, as a white person, as a colored, Indian, Asian person. Tell us your experiences that you've had with race, the stereotypes that you've been facing, and the stereotypes that you want to bust. That, you know what, just because I look like this doesn't mean it's like this. You know, and it's never okay to treat someone or to sort of like not see someone's brilliance and their personal character based just because they're black or just because they're Asian. It's not okay. it'll never be okay. So let's have this conversation. Let's not be afraid to have this conversation. I know I didn't touch everything. There's just too much to say in such little time. I know that there obviously experiences are isolated. We all go through it. What I've gone through doesn't mean that it's necessarily a truth for you, but it is for me. And I'm sharing it, and I hope you guys can share it too. So don't forget to like, subscribe, and also click that notification button to say that you want our videos right there at your fingertips. We'll see you next time. This is not the end of DNN. I love you all, and I hope to see you in our next series. This has been so much fun, and I can't wait for more. Next up, we'll be talking about GBV, so you better be ready. I'll see you on the flip side.